Part 31. The Duke's wife is beautiful but has a dark heart. Author, see the peach fish again. Chapter 301. Chapter 301 Sky High Price of Bride Price. That day, as soon as when you got home, a girl came to tell her that the old lady asked everyone to go to her room tomorrow morning. Early the next morning, when you went to find MRSG and accompanied her there. Tan's eyes were full of smiles as always. Seeing Wen Yu's mother-in-law come in, she only glanced at her and said, "Sit down quickly. I'm talking about the emperor's birthday. There's a lot of commotion in the palace this time, including martial arts contests, horse racing, and ball games. There are also newly arranged songs and dances, all arranged by the queen herself. This time, our family, except Minghui." She smiled and teased MRSU, "Let's all go. Besides, it's almost the end of the year, it's rare for Mr. Ho to be at home this year. We also have to make it more decent. You can take care of the third family's house. Minghui, you can do it. I will give birth to my grandson in a down-to-earth manner and forget about other things." Su Minghui feels that she is in good shape recently, and she is really jealous when looking at the housework. Since Mr. Ho is at home, what he does must be of the highest standard. How much money will it cost? However, Grandma was kind-hearted, and since she was talking about this, she could only respond by touching her belly. Huier listens to Grandma. Mr. Tan smiled and said, "That's so good. Besides, I'm busy with things in the palace. It's my birthday too, and the Marquis said that he would also make some fun for me. According to me, hey, you might as well just listen to him and let me. He is happy." MRSU quickly said, "That's right, Grandma. This is also a big day in our house. We need to celebrate." MRS Tan smiled, "At this age, I just hope that my children and grandchildren will live together in peace and harmony. I don't think about anything else. My fifth daughter-in-law, please send some snacks from your shop for your third aunt to take a look at. Order some for yourself. Treat guests and give gifts. Anyway, let's discuss it, my fifth daughter-in-law." MRS Tan saw that Wen Yu was distracted, she was dissatisfied. Wen Yu looked at MRS Tan fiercely, "Grandma. Why are you distracted? Yeah, the circles under your eyes are black. What's wrong?" "Grandma, my granddaughter-in-law hasn't slept well these past 2 days." Wen Yu's voice was a little hoarse. "Then hurry up and catch up on your sleep during the day. Grandma is calling you because she wants to take care of your business again, so you have to appreciate it." After MRS Tan finished speaking, she covered her mouth and smiled. "When you looked very happy, Grandma loves me so much, my granddaughter-in-law is very grateful. My grandson daughter-in-law will definitely arrange this matter herself." "Okay. Arrange it yourself. Can you make the clothes from last time before the palace banquet? Everyone will wear them by then, and it will also make your shop famous." MRS Tan looked at Wen Yu with a deep smile. MRSG didn't dare to look at MRS Tan, for she was afraid that if she looked at her, she would rush up and slap her. My heart was pounding, so I suppressed it and turned to look at Wen Yu. Wen Yu was stunned for a moment, and then quickly smiled. "Grandma, last time I talked about making thick clothes. Although the weather is getting cold now, it seems that it is not the time to wear such thick clothes. Especially in the palace. But I remember that except for the fur cloak, they were all made of thin silk cotton. Wearing them like this should be the most suitable in the palace." MRS Tan recalled, "It's my fault that I wasn't there that day and didn't explain it clearly. Otherwise, you can do it again asking? If you are in a hurry, it is best to send it. When everyone asks, we will answer it, and your store's business will be improved." Wen Yu's eyes flashed, "Yes, soon, my granddaughter-in-law will go to the store to have a look." After chatting enough, everyone went out. MRSG held Wen Yu tightly angrily. He patted her gently to comfort her. When Mrsu saw the mother-in-law and daughter-in-law, it was called intimacy. Very angry, he snorted heavily and returned to his room. Before Mrsg could wait for Wenyu to comfort her, she suddenly felt fine. Don't you think she's tired? Isn't that what she was planning to do? What is she doing? Playing tricks for fun. Born a bad boy, Wenyu was also tired for her. Master Wen knew something had happened to Master Qing, so he couldn't let go of his daughter. The matter at hand came to an end, and I took a leave of absence from the emperor and stayed at the inn. Actually, he wanted his daughter to go home and live there, but then he thought, if he was provoked by a ruthless person, how could the servants and servants at home be his opponents? It might as well be in an inn, where the shameless white-haired boy is in charge. But thinking about it this way, I feel really angry and useless, so I drink tea in the house. Over there, with Lord Wen's helpless acquiescence, Hu Fei accompanied Wen Shizu openly. Zuzu, have you thought about what I told you last time? He spoke carefully, just for fear of hearing an answer that would disappoint him. Wen Shizu was a little embarrassed. I thought about it. How's it going? Zuzu, you know, although I know a lot, I'm really not good at words, so I can't fully express my feelings in words. If you marry me, you will be happy for the rest of your life, really. Look now, your father and Wenyu, they both agree that I am by your side, right? Wen Shizu said, then, there is something I want to ask you. You tell me. When Au came back from Tianlong Temple, I cried for a long time when I talked about you. Au said that Yang Rishi was the most beautiful woman she had ever seen. She was very pitiful. Me, I don't want to compare with her. If we just have a normal relationship and you always have her in your heart, I will feel that this friendship is very enviable. But if you want to marry me, then you can no longer have her in your heart. I will know if there is any. You can't lie to me. Zuzu, look into my eyes and say to yourself, do I have her in my heart now? Zuzu looked into his two amber eyes, filled with herself. He couldn't help but blushed and said nothing. Ever since I was a child, others have seen me as smart, hard-working, and capable. They all thought that I would lead the Hu family to a high and far distance. I used to think so too. I would do whatever I had to do. Sometimes, I'm quite happy. But I don't know, some things are sinking in my heart little by little. And Yang Rishi is a change from my original rules. I didn't even think about whether I really liked her or what I liked about her. But life goes on like that, day after day. Until I met you, I didn't know what kind of feeling a beautiful woman brings to people. Zuzu, when I saw you for the first time, even though I was still confused at the time, my intuition told me to get closer to you. And in the end, it was you who pulled me out. It can be said that I was reshaped by you. So, don't abandon me. Wen Shizu, I didn't quite understand it. But she is quite happy. Au said, let me follow my heart. She asked me, if I get married, do I want to marry you, or marry another strange but good young man? I thought about it, I don't want to marry anyone else, even if he good. Zuzu, no one will treat you better than me. Hu Fei held her hand, very excited. Well, that's what you said. I said it, I swear. But how do you convince your father? He doesn't like me very much, he thinks I'm old. Zuzu, don't think so. I don't mind, but I'm not sure how I can convince my dad. He's so good at talking. Yes, Hu Fei was also worried, but if you decide what you want, he loves you so much and will always listen to you. Just go and tell him. After teaching for a long time, Wen Shizu took a breath and went in to find her father. Hu Fei waited anxiously at the door. He didn't let him wait long before Zuzu came out with a disgraced look and shook her head at him. Then he taught for another half day. Zuzu doubted, is this possible? Okay, you go again. Zuzu took another deep breath and went in. This time, Mr. Tingwen shouted something, and then fell silent. Hu Fei opened the crack in the door to listen. Master Wen kept talking in a low voice. Then, I heard Master Wen yelling, "Hu Fei, come in here." He finally swallowed the word go. Even though Hu Fei encouraged Zhu Zuxing, when it was his turn, he also had his calves facing forward. This was a feeling he had never had before. Zuzu came out with tears on her face, but she smiled ghostly at him. Hu Fei whispered, "Go and invite Mr. Shi here quickly." He went in and accepted Master Wen's crazy scroll. What a storm! Hu Fei felt relieved after hearing this. The things that the future father-in-law disagrees with are just the following: he is old and is getting married for the second time. He had gone crazy before and was born with strange visions. What if these problems are passed on to his precious grandson? Oops, my father-in-law has already thought of that. Hu Fei couldn't help but smile. Mr. Wen held back for a long time before hitting him with the pot in his hand. Finally, Mr. Shi knocked on the door and came in. 3 people chatting at the same time, this is almost a one-sided situation, there is no room for bargaining at all. In the end, Mr. Wen, who opened his mouth like a lion, was depressed. Did they even agree to this? If this doesn't happen, there is no way in heaven or on earth that I can find anyone better than him for my daughter. He was so angry. In the end, she had to say, she would go home and discuss it with her grandfather, and he had to make the final decision. This is consent. Hu Fei felt that he almost fainted from happiness. If you run out and grab your sweetheart, you won't be able to finish talking. Mr. Shi shook his head. I, an old man, can only handle this once, so don't bother me anymore. By the time when you arrived, the dust had almost settled. Zuzu rushed over and told the news in detail. When you was speechless, my cousin always said that he had a dark heart. Compared with Mr. Wen, I am really nothing. He is so embarrassed to open his mouth. Zuzu, you are the best girl in the world and you deserve this sky-high price of gift. Thank you guys for your encouragement. The Duke's wife is beautiful but has a dark heart. Author, see the peach fish again. Chapter 302. Chapter 302, not completely stupid yet. Master Zhou's study, his men came in. Sir, my subordinate arranged for someone to check it out. It is true that Master Qing is no longer in the store. When a customer asked, the store said that she had something to do and that she had not been here recently. The inn was very strictly guarded. As soon as she entered, there was a small. The clerk followed me all the way, asking questions, and if I wanted to stay at the hotel, I had to check my identity and couldn't get any information. The subordinates followed Qi Yang and Wen Yu, and they went to Princess Lijuan's mansion several times. Wang Jian was asked to take a peek and he said that the person who intervened that day was General Duanmu, who had just returned to Beijing. Li Kun frowned. Why is it him? So, he brought that master back. It should be. It's just the princess's mansion, and my subordinates don't dare to visit at night. Don't go, especially if Duanmu is at home. What's going on with the man named Wen? Maybe it's because the master in charge is away and the store is a little busy. In the past few days, besides going to the store, she also goes to the princess's mansion. Just as he said this, a voice came from the door of the study. Sir, Mr. Dong sent someone to deliver a letter, saying that he is waiting for you at his old place. Li Kun responded solemnly, I understand. Then he pressed his brows in annoyance. Just give me trouble. Don't worry. Never mind. You arrange for someone to watch. If the master is alive, he cannot live in the princess's mansion forever. Let's see where she went in the end. If she comes back, if you go to your original residence, you can find an opportunity to do it again. If you go somewhere else, come back to me. After saying that, he stood up. There were still a lot of things to do. Zhang Zhongqing and Li Zhang had just returned from investigating for a few days, and were saying to Wen Yu. The two of us paid attention, but didn't follow him. We walked around the back streets, but unfortunately it took too long, and almost no one around us remembers it. Li Zhang said, the landlord they rented a house from at that time was a widow with a son. Although she was not rich, she had a few small houses to rent out, and she could still live a good life. Someone mentioned that the widow had a tenant who was a relative of the Ho family. She flattered her son and actually gave her son an excuse to go to some military depot to check the gate. It's quite far from home, and I can make a lot of money without having to live a heavy life. Later, her son hooked up with a woman there and returned home to divorce her. However, the widow later died of illness, and the son did not show up. His house all belonged to the widow's eldest brother-in-law. The uncle only rented it out when he took it back, and rarely saw people. People around him didn't know the whole story, but they all said that the son was also dead. Otherwise, how could the property be returned to the uncle? When you was a little discouraged, the time is right, Prince, where is the divorced woman? Zhang Zhongqing said, I haven't inquired yet. I will check the household registration files later. Those from decades ago may have to be checked in the warehouse in the mountains. Don't delay your own business. Mubo and the others are going to Nyojia village anyway. Even if everything goes well, it will take 2 or 3 months. However, no matter where you go, you must bring everyone with you. Don't let anything happen to you again. Do not worry. This evening, Qi Xiao came back. He told Qi Ho and Qi Yuyi that he had found a position as a 5th grade inspection officer. Qi Ho was a little surprised, because Qi Xiao's current position was obtained by him from nowhere, and it was just better than sitting at home. Originally, Qi Ho also found a grandson for this eldest grandson, from the 5th rank. Although the official position does not sound high, for Qi Xiao, who is in his 20s, it is quite good. The reason why I haven't told him yet is, the old man wanted to settle the major matters at home, and then make some arrangements for Qi Xiao as a way of comforting him. But he is quite capable. Qi Xiao, although this is the 5th grade, you have to go out all the time. It's 2 or 3 months short, and it's 2 or 3 years long. It's a bit hard. Qi Xiao said, Grandpa, my grandson has been outside for so many years. He is not idle and is not afraid of hard work. In this position, if you go out for a trip, you will have a lot of chances to be promoted when you come back. This is true. What a good thing. Was it your grandfather who planned it? Qi Ho felt a little sour in his heart. It's not that he doesn't have this ability. The key is that there are many boys in the family. Especially if that thing succeeds, Qi Xiao will have to be pressured a little bit. Alas, it is difficult for him to do this if he has many descendants and they are all struggling. Qi Xiao nodded, yes. Qi Yuyi nodded calmly, it's indeed good. When will we leave this time? 5 days later. Take good care of yourself and arrange everything at home, Qi Yuyi said. Yes, before Qi Ho could say anything else, Qi Xiao came out. While talking, I thought, this conversation between 3 generations of grandparents is so indifferent. Can't help but remember that when his grandfather talked to him, he talked about the chosen trip, the route, time, reasons, and manpower. They even gave him a copy of the list of old brothers along the way, and said they had prepared some gifts for him to visit and tell them directly if he had anything to do. He is the eldest grandson of his grandfather. He can't even remember talking to himself alone for such a long time. He is his father's eldest son and has been with him for many years. The last time he was trapped, he still led others to rescue him desperately. For the first time, he felt deeply what his mother said about the warmth and coldness of human relationships. She walked to the inner courtyard in a dull tone. When she got inside, Su Minghui seemed to have something on her mind and wasn't very happy. He didn't say anything when he came in. Qi Xiao sat in front of her. Minghui, how are you today? Su Minghui snorted. Grandma said, let me take care of the child at home, and leave all the New Year matters to the third aunt. She also said that my grandfather will be at home this year, and it will be lively. You can calculate for yourself how much money you have to spend. How much oil and water will be obtained. Chi Xiao knew that she was not really doing the math by herself, but was letting him answer the question so that she could continue talking. There were many such situations in the past, and he would indeed accept her words and empathize with her joys and sorrows. But now, he suddenly felt how boring all of this was. The fifth brother is handsome but has a dull face. He shows no expression no matter what happens. Including when I bullied him when I was a child. Looking at it now, the whole person is much more lively. He has changed a lot since he got married. Seeing that he was distracted and did not answer her words, Mrsu became even more unhappy. What are you doing? Hiss. She frowned and pretended to have a stomachache. Chi Xiao quickly asked, what's wrong? Are you feeling uncomfortable? It's okay, I'm angry. What's wrong? Tell me. Chi Xiao felt helpless. Mrsu said to herself, today, Grandma told Wenyu that she would order some snacks in her shop to use for giving gifts and entertaining guests at home. Now, how much does that want to earn? Grandma is really, always support that bitch. Chi Xiao made rapid progress once he changed. He didn't want to listen anymore. Minghui, listen to me, today, my grandfather found a job for me. When Su Minghui heard this, she was surprised but not happy. He offered you a job. His face was full of doubt. Why? Chi Xiao became even more dissatisfied after hearing this, and said lightly, maybe, because I am his eldest grandson. You, Mrsu choked, I mean, he hasn't cared about you for so many years, why do you have, what position now? Su curled her lips, what are you doing? I have to go on a patrol. This mission will leave in 5 days. You want to go out? I'm pregnant, Mrsu was shocked. There is a maid at home, female doctors and midwives can be arranged in the house. Who can compare with you? Mrsu was very angry. Minghui. I knew the Kui family had bad intentions. My grandfather is at home and you are not here to serve him. How can you be respected by him? You never go out to socialize, but you always take Chiyu with you. Although your grandfather is old and strong, your father is still young and strong, and it is not your turn. However, you have to be prepared. Although my grandmother can make decisions about many things in this family, my grandfather still has the final say as to who has the authority. Chi Xiao deliberately told her, don't talk about yourself, even your father may not be able to get it, but what's the use of saying this? Humph, they are trying to find excuses for you to leave the capital, and they do it intentionally. They are plotting against you and not letting you get better. You are not allowed to go. Chi Xiao smiled bitterly to himself. He followed his mother to Kui's house to talk to his grandfather about this matter sincerely. My grandfather made the arrangement because he thought he was sensible. But, tell her, I'm not sure how to misinterpret it or make trouble. Okay, I won't go. Will you go home and ask the Su family to find a good job for me? Chi Xiao looked at Su Minghui intently. You, Su Minghui blushed, Mister, do you want to be angry with me? I was not feeling well, and I was wrong today. I just wanted to wait for you to come back and talk to you, but in the end is it useful to try to bully me? In this family, I am your only relative. Chi Xiao looked at her excited look and thought to himself, every day, you are more anxious and more angry. Why, can't you be like when you, smiling with your mother, holding arms when walking, like mother and daughter? Ever since I had this fifth sibling, I have seen my mother's brows relax and her smile often open. But when she mentioned you, no, mother didn't mention you at all. I mentioned it, but she didn't even answer. Okay. I have accepted the official position. If I don't go, I have to resign. Then, I will be a white man. Do you want a son to be born with his father like this? Chi Xiao, do you even dislike me? Su Minghui said another sentence to convince Chi Xiao. Chi Xiao paused for a long time before saying, no. At this time, Mrs. Su began to feel frightened. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Duke's wife is beautiful but has a dark heart. Author, see the peach fish again. Chapter 303. Chapter 303 Everything is reconciled. The day before, when you left early and came back late, and did not go to her mother-in-law. Early the next morning, before going to the store, I went over to take a look. MRSG has just finished breakfast. She feels very sad to see that when you has become tired and thin these days. If it doesn't work, don't take the job yet. Finish what you're doing and then talk. Don't worry, the store is running normally. If we extend the delivery time, it will be no problem. If you are free at noon, go find your wife for dinner. MRSG said with a smile, go when you have time. When you came out, he met Su Minghui. As if he didn't see it, he passed by and walked away. Su Minghui watched her go, cursed in a low voice, and was about to enter MRSG's yard. But at the door, Nanny Kui came to stop her. Madam is changing clothes and preparing to go out. It's not convenient for you to go in at this moment. If you have anything to say, please tell me. A slave dared to do this to her. Su Minghui was furious. Get out of the way, a good dog won't block the way. She looked like she was trying to take advantage of her pregnancy to get in. As a result, Aunt Kui sneered, Grandma, I'd better think about it. You can't enter this house without my wife's instructions. I will try my best to stop you. If something goes wrong, I might be beaten to death, but it's too late for you to regret. Su Minghui glared at Grandma Kui fiercely. Sooner or later, this old guy will fall into my hands, and then I will beat your whole family to death. But when I think about it, where can I dare to fight? She has a golden bump in her belly. So he turned around and went to find Mr. Tan to complain. Only then did Tan know that Chi Xiao had such a thing. Want to send Chi Xiao out? It's obvious that she wants to win over him, but why send him away? It's hard to say that I can't spend the new year in the capital. What's next in March? I didn't turn around for a moment, but seeing Mrs. Su crying like she was in tears, I felt upset. Even if this is not her own granddaughter-in-law, she is still useful. Otherwise, I won't tolerate her. Come on, stop crying. Is Chi Xiao at home? She said patiently. A servant next to me said, Master is out. You go back and rest first. Let's talk about it when he comes back. Mrs. Tan finally dismissed him impatiently. Seeing this, Su had no choice but to go back first. Chi Xiao is about to leave, but there are many things to do in terms of people, things, and money. I ran around all morning and had to treat someone to dinner at noon. He chose to enjoy it. Unexpectedly, Chi Wu was also here, so the two brothers accompanied others to finish the meal. Chi Wu called Wen Yu over again. Wen Yu was not polite and simply explained what he had encountered in a concise manner. She looked at Chi Xiao as if he was different from before. He then patiently explained Tan's usual techniques. Just like that day, she knew that Master Qing's life and death were on the line, and the clothing production in the store would be greatly affected. I was busy and worried, with an ugly face. First, I said, my family plans to order dim sum in my store, and she, the grandmother, is taking care of me. It's business. Let me be happy first. Then, he turned around and said, I hope the store will prepare the clothes at home in advance and wear them at the palace banquet for everyone to see. If she helps negotiate a deal, the store's business will be even better. It rises first and then suppresses it, making me feel ups and downs. Then she will have the happiness of being able to control everything. Chi Xiao is a soldier and has learned a lot of strategies, but he doesn't know which one to apply. Shaking his head and smiling. So, you can't be led by her in everything, but use the goals she wants to achieve and reverse her actions. Then you can see clearly. Chi Xiao nodded in agreement and was busy all afternoon again. As soon as they got home, Madame Tan immediately called him and Madame Su over and started today's performance. If you leave, I'm afraid you won't be able to come back for the new year after all, your grandfather is at home. You are used to Minghui's temper, although it is not good. She is pregnant now. Your grandfather has been planning for you, and he told me that it will be settled after the new year what you are doing now. Young man, it's nothing to suffer a little. Grandma doesn't understand what you are doing. Now she is worried about Minghui. A woman's life is to go through when she gives birth to a child. If she is in a hurry and you are not here, what will she do? What's your mood? You've finished your work, but you won't regret it until you get home. Su Minghui nodded and cried while listening. Chi Xiao lowered her head and followed what Wen Yu said. What if she wanted to prevent me from being better than Chi Yu? I don't want to set up obstacles for my third uncle Chinju. Then the context of everything will be very clear. For example, the more she persuaded, the more Su cried. So it turns out that's the case. He did not dare to raise his eyes to look at Mrs. Tan, but lowered his head and said in a deep voice, "Grandma, I have received the mission, and we have made arrangements for today. If you don't go, I'm afraid you will lose your official position and engage in military law. My grandson must go. Minghui, I leave it to you." After saying that, he sighed helplessly. Su Minghui was stunned, biting the handkerchief, so he didn't even listen? Mrs. Tan nodded helplessly. That's fine. Then you can go. Minghui, I have always regarded her as my granddaughter, and all her affairs are left to me. Chi Xiao thanked him and came out with Su. Su was so angry that she couldn't help but ignored him and left bitterly. Mrs. Tan tilted her back on the cushion, with a mocking expression on her lips. I've said it all, but you still don't listen. Then, I'll let you know what it feels like to have your sweetheart die twice. No matter how high you climb, there is nothing to enjoy. Although Song Shang said he was not referring to this, the entire store was the hard work of Wen Yu and his team, so how could he let it go? In the past few days, I have been going to the store to keep an eye on it. The good thing is that although Master Ching did not wake up, his symptoms were relieved. It has been agreed that after a long life, we will move to Hauerhei Villa. What surprised Wen Yu even more was that Yu Bai's work was quite brilliant. Moreover, unlike Master Ching, he has to entertain the distinguished guests in the shop all day long. Don't be distracted, concentrate on tailoring, and work very quickly. The only regret is that I have too little experience in innovation and dare not take it lightly. Wen Yu stayed in the store all day. She might as well be Zuzu, she was exhausted when she got home. So, it's time for Chi Wu's performance. She lay on the bed and he gave her a serious massage. Although the hands were slender, but with such strength, a gentle squeeze made Wen Yu moan in pain and comfort, so Chi Wu started an irregular massage. Finally, Chi Wu reconciled with his young wife. The next day he felt refreshed and his eyes were bright. The day before Chi Xiao left, he came to see MRSG and told his mother about the preparations. MRSG listened patiently, nodded, and pointed to the soft armor on the case. Although you are not going to fight, you should wear it. Mother, Chi Xiao was deeply moved. Okay. You're a big man. You're pretty safe in doing things, and you don't need me to tell you more. It's been a hard journey, so bring more money. There was some money beside the soft armor. Mom, I don't need any money. Grandfather wrote letters to the uncles along the way, those who are in need. Bring it with you. There are many descendants in those uncles' families. When you meet the younger generation, you are from the capital after all, so you can't be too generous. Yes, Ji Xiao thought of his father, who had not been seen for the past few days. He sighed sadly, "Mother, my son would like to ask you to take care of Mrs. Su. I know you don't like her, but she is pregnant after all." Mrs. smiled, "Silly son. It seems that you still don't understand being a mother. The only people in this world who have hurt me and yet I can forgive are your grandfather, you, and Xiao Wu. Your father can't do that, Bao no, do you understand? Mother. Only you and Xiao were born to me in 10 months of pregnancy. No matter how sad my mother is or how much she blames you, as long as you are willing to look back, your mother will always be there waiting." And Mrs. Su. Mrs. shook her head and smiled, "I once had a dream after I returned to my hometown last time and Yuan saved the day. I dreamed, something really happened to Yuan. I couldn't bear it. People become sober and confused. Xiao Wu wants to the arranged marriage didn't work out, so I went to the northwest after returning to Beijing, and the news of her death came. Your grandfather suffered a stroke when he heard the news about Yuan. Your fourth aunt also hated me to death because of this. Su Minghui, with the support of the Tan family, locked me up as a madman and took my dowry private property. Even you think I'm crazy." "Mother," Qi Xiao panicked. Mrs. pressed his hand, "But, I often hear you come to see me, bring food, ask the doctor, and tell the servants to take good care of me." Afterwards, Xiao Wu suddenly came back alive. "Kill the Tan family and the Su family, your grandfather wants to kill Xiao Wu, I stand in front of him." Mrs. said it in a dream, so her tone was quite calm, but Qi Xiao was heartbroken when she heard it. He fell to his knees and cried, "Mother, my son can't help you. My son is unfilial, mother." Mrs. was startled, "Get up quickly, what are you doing?" "Son." Qi Xiao looked up at his mother, but couldn't say anything. "Mom, I have been looking forward to my son." "You can love your son." Mrs. pulled him up and hugged him, "Mom loves you. We, the two of us, have missed a lot of good times. From now on, no matter what thoughts you have, don't hide them. Speak out, okay? Okay." Qi Xiao sobbed like a child. Mrs. pulled him to sit down distressedly, "Let's do this, I think it's for your sake. If Su Minghui can come and apologize to me, I promise to live a good life with you in the future and never act like a monster again. Then, what will my mother do to her? Even if you can't treat Wen Yu equally, you can still take care of her. What do you think?" Qi Xiao knew that this was difficult, but he had no choice but to nod. "Son, go back and tell her." "Xiao you have to think carefully, do you want to say this to her?" "People, sometimes, the closer we get together, the closer we get. Even if we are not related by blood, we are still in the blood. Sometimes, it is, walking, let's go. Xiao think carefully, don't embarrass others, let alone yourself." Qi Xiao came out carrying the soft armor and the money. Instead of going back to his yard, he went directly to the front and handed the soft armor to the personal guard. "Put it in your carry-on." The guard took it and took a look. "Oh my God. Sir, is this yours?" Qi Xiao nodded, and her heart was full. "My mother gave it to me. Madam, I love you so much, this is a treasure, you have to keep it, it's hard to buy it for $1,000. Big brother Qi Wu is here. I have something to ask my elder brother to do." The fact that my brother has something to ask for makes Qi Xiao even more happy than giving him something, and it comes out in his voice, "Say. These 2 letters happen to be on your way. There are addresses on them. Please give them to them for me." "Okay, don't worry. Besides, this money." Qi Wu blushed. He had not paid off his old debt, so he asked his wife to borrow a new one. Based on his wife's actions, he performed well. At least I won't be allowed to eat my kidneys. No need for this, mother also gave it to me. Chi Xiao quickly refused. This time, it's the first time that eldest brother takes someone out to do something. You have to be more generous, so you don't need to bring him back again. Fifth brother. Chi Xiao became excited again. In the past, it was the eldest brother who was confused. It will be better in the future. Chi Wu smiled and patted him on the shoulder. Well, I have made peace with my eldest brother. The Duke's wife is beautiful but has a dark heart. Author, see the peach fish again. Chapter 304. Chapter 304 is probably available. I am going to the palace banquet. When you blushed and chatted with Mrs. Tan for a long time, saying that the clothes could not be finished, she was very embarrassed. Seeing her embarrassed look, Mrs. Tan smiled faintly. Forget it. It's not like I have nothing to wear. That tone was unusually unpleasant. Lu also took the opportunity to say a few words. The gentle words are Chi Kiran, the red face lowers the head. When we got to the palace, the queen was really capable of doing things, and it was obvious that she was someone who dared to spend money. There are so many things to pay attention to. If people can see it, she will be very happy. If the flattery is not right, then it means that there is no mercy at all. After the birthday celebrations, several princes, and grandsons had a fight with each other to show their filial piety. As usual, the Queen Empress wants to squeeze in the Crown Princess, Princess Wu, etc. After several things happened, Prince Yongqing became much calmer, and King Wu finally found him more pleasing to the eye. The prince was as usual, pretending not to understand or know what he was doing. The emperor made it clear that he favored the prince, and even discussed official matters with him at the birthday banquet. The prince knew that this was just for other people to see, so he generously accepted his father's kindness and wanted to push it further. The emperor is not annoyed at all. As the emperor, of course he knows a thing or two about the situation in the capital. But as long as they don't get out of the circle, several children and grandchildren can keep each other in check, which he likes to see. But if there is someone who dares to get out of the circle, don't blame him for being vicious. The royal family had been making out for a while, and the emperor remembered. Today, Wen Ruo Kingsun's daughter is here too, right? And nearby hurriedly came over and said, "Long live the return. Master Wen's daughter is here." Although the emperor is extremely suspicious, he is limited to people and things that threaten his position. Although he is not excellent in other aspects, he is not a fool either. He loves and hates Wen Ruoqing at the same time. When he was holding his neck and calling to himself, I really wanted to push him out of the Meridian Gate, but there is no such person in the court. Let the father and daughter come over and let me take a look. Wen Ruoqing brought her daughter in. It felt like she had wings, and she was so beautiful. The beads behind her are so gorgeous that they catch everyone's gaze as they walk. Unexpectedly, not only the father and daughter came, but also the white-haired Hu Fei following behind. After the three people saw each other, the emperor looked at Wen Shizu and said, "Wen Iking, is this your daughter?" Wen Ruoqing retracted his wings and raised his tail to the sky again. "Hui long live lord, she is my daughter. Your Majesty, see how similar our father and daughter are, right?" The emperor took a closer look and said, "Maybe, she looks more like her mother." Wen Ruoqing didn't like hearing it anymore. "Your Majesty, I am just a little old. When I was young, I was very handsome." "Really?" The emperor looked unbelieving. "Look again, that's Hu Fei behind. Why are you here too?" Hu Fei is dressed in gorgeous clothes, with white hair and a childish face. Long live the return, Lord Wen has promised Hu Fei his wife as his palm. He looked at Wen Shizu with bright eyes, feeling a little embarrassed. Master Wen was very dissatisfied and took a step back to block his view. The emperor grinned, looking at the farce in front of him, sorting out the relationship between it. he was serious and stern throughout his life and had never done any of these messy things. Finally he said, haha, that's really congratulations. Outside, MS-10 was socializing around, and she had maintained many relationships over the years. Of course, after chatting for a while, the chatter came to Wenyu's shop. She accidentally said that the new clothes she had promised to deliver were delayed. The concubine finally saw Wenyu in the crowd and went to pull her. The two of them talked in the corner. Your Highness just told me, how is Master Cheng? Wenyu sighed softly, the wound is healing slowly, and the fever is gone. However, she hasn't woken up yet. Fortunately, she can swallow. At present, she can only cook some rice soup and broth for her. The doctor said that she will wait until the wound has completely healed. I don't know when she will wake up and regain consciousness. How could this happen? Said the concubine. There are some clues, but there is no evidence. We have already started investigating. If you need my help, if you need anything, just ask. The marriage between Zuzu and Mr. Hu has been settled. Not bad. Are you going to get married soon? How do you know? I really can't stand Hu Fei, and I want to marry Zuzu immediately. I don't even think about it. Mr. Wen only has one girl in his life, and he has just recognized her. How can he be willing to let her get married? Mr. Hu swore that he would not marry Zuzu. Zhu was brought back to the Hu family and only lived in the capital. Master Wen reluctantly agreed to this marriage. That's right, of course we have to put forward conditions. You don't know yet, Zuzu's bride price. When you said for a long time. Real. That's right. Actually, after thinking about it later, so what if it's true? Mr. Wen, can you still take those back? Why don't you give them back? That Mr. Shi is so cunning. When you said lively. Zhang Pingting's face suddenly turned ugly. What's wrong with you? Are you feeling uncomfortable? I guess I have it, Zhang Pingting said somewhat angrily. When you was not surprised, but calmed down. How long has it been? I told you the date, and it happened to be the day, but I am very regular and will always arrive 2 days in advance, never the same, so I was worried. I haven't told His Highness yet. You have to say it. This time is the most important. Let the soldiers come to block it. I don't believe they don't care about anything. Zhang Pingting said, the crown princess is a smart person and can weigh the pros and cons, but Shui Ying, I don't know how the crown princess chose this material in the first place. She has high vision but low hand, and is bold and careless. She does things in a flamboyant way, and she can't wait to. You must implement this matter as soon as possible. If it is confirmed, you must let His Highness the grandson and His Highness the Crown Prince know. Even the Emperor and the Queen must report it. If it is confirmed, it will be a great joy for you Donggong and you Taijun. However, that idiot has no foresight at all. She has no idea what the situation in Donggong is now. With all her heart and eyes, she thinks that the chair is for their aunt and nephew. Prepared. Don't even think about it, even if it's the crown princess. She was squeezed out by the queen just now and she didn't dare to say a word. Not to mention that she has no son, even if it is her husband or her father-in-law, who dares to be careless. Is there such a fate? Pingting. When you was a little worried, you are a little excited. Pingting stopped and took a deep breath. I know, there is some nameless anxiety. You still need to ask the doctor to take a look. You should also meditate yourself. Suddenly, a little palace maid came over with a smile. Concubine, the lady has told you that she has important private matters to see you. Please go to the Guanyin pavilion to talk. The concubine Zhang also smiled and said, please, miss, please go back with Mrs. Zhang. This is in the palace. There are palace rules in the palace. If you have any questions, ask her to send a message to the East Palace. I, the concubine, will arrange a time to meet you her. Concubine, The little palace maid was a little surprised. "You don't have ears to listen to what I say." The concubine's eyes stood up. "She is so powerful." The little palace maid lowered her head and retreated. That idiot, Jiang Pingting was very angry. "Sister," when you looked at her angrily. "Your anger scared me." Jiang Pingting laughed suddenly. "Do you think she is stupid?" After a while, a palace maid came and asked, "Is this Mrs. Wu?" "I am." "Miss Wen is in front of the queen. Please come over." The duke's wife is beautiful but has a dark heart. Author, see the peach fish again. Chapter 305. Chapter 305. A slap in the face. When you followed the maid and saw Qin Lianyu from the corner of her eye. Qin Lianyu is dressed up again today, but speaking of it, her outfit is not on the same level as Wei's. It feels like a vixen that a scholar encounters when he is reading at night, with a soft and elegant look. No matter how expensive the jewelry is, it seems to be specially worn to seduce people's soul. After hearing Qi Wu's vow and getting along with him, when he looked at this girl, he felt like she was laughing. Qin Lianyu didn't notice Wen Yu, but she saw Lord Wen's new daughter Wen Shizhu. Her gorgeous appearance, graceful figure, and innocent smile attracted endless whispers from the people around her. I couldn't suppress the jealousy in my heart. She had no idea that the day when she married into the Duke's palace would be like this. In such a big occasion as today, there is no chance for ladies and girls from various families to show off their talents. After arriving for a long time, I could only follow my mother-in-law and socialize with those ugly and stereotyped old ladies. I also have to talk to those little wives and big girls who follow the rules and don't even dare to laugh. The topics are limited to weather and human relations. It's really boring to praise the Queen's abilities and virtues. Those people all admired my sister-in-law very much. After praising her for a long time, they would also praise themselves. A bunch of stupid people, blind people. Finally, Mrs. Zhang Qiagong finally sat down. The sister-in-law also went to meet her family and best friends, and she also took the opportunity to walk around. After I talked to Wen Yu last time, I didn't know if there was any reaction when I got back. Whether Wulang will play again today, I didn't even see it last time. After leaving the gate, I asked the palace maid next to me and found out that the stadium was quite far away. I happened to meet a girl from a relative of the Zhang family, so I asked her if she wanted to go watch a game. The girl said it was a long way. "I'll look at it after I have nothing to do for a while. Now, I have to meet my friends." After that, he pulled her to talk to the person next to her. Qin Lianyu kept smiling and said appropriately, "Yes, that's true. That's really good." In fact, she didn't listen to anything. Suddenly, a palace maid came to salute her and said in a low voice, "Excuse me, is this the second wife of Duke Jingguo's family?" Qin Lianyu nodded reservedly. The maid came closer again. "Your cousin asked me to send a message, saying that he has something to tell you privately, but I don't know if it's convenient for you." "He is." She pointed in the direction of the racecourse, waiting at the end of the courtyard. "You. If you can go, I will lead the way." Qin Lianyu's heart was beating fast. Is it him? Did he finally remember me? His voice was trembling. "Okay, I'll go." Looking around, no one noticed her. So, taking light and delicate steps, I wanted to fly over with wings on my ribs. The little maid didn't say anything and just led the way. Next to the main hall is a royal courtyard with a pavilion and many ancient trees in the middle. There are chrysanthemums on the roadside, probably grown in greenhouses. The sunshine is particularly good at the moment, and I can smell the fragrance all the way. Although the road was not short, Qin Lianyu was in high spirits and not tired at all. At the beginning there were many people walking around, but as we walked further they disappeared. She couldn't help but secretly complain, "This person ran so far away." However, except for the occasional little who looked after the flowers and plants, There was no one else. It's easier to talk. At the end of the courtyard, the little palace lady stopped. In front of her was a brick flower wall with several doors in the shape of various vases. The palace maid pointed, "It's behind the wall. Mrs. Zhang Er, please go in. My servant is waiting here." Qin Lianyu quickly rewarded him. Without saying a word, he just walked through the door. As soon as she entered, she was stunned. MRSG was standing there, looking at her with a sneer. "Ah! Why is it you?" Qin Lianyu blurted out. "It's me. Is that weird? Otherwise, who do you think it could be?" Qin Lianyu suddenly blushed with embarrassment. No, aunt. Because you ignored Lian for a long time. So, I was a little surprised to see you." "Then who are you not surprised to see, Qi Yang?" No. And, I. Qin Lianyu stammered in explanation. MRSG approached slowly, suddenly raised her hand and slapped her in the face. Although the force was not strong, the surroundings were quiet, and the pop sound was quite clear. "What do you want to do, you bitch? You're already married, and you want to seduce my son." Chun Lianyu covered her face and didn't dare to say anything. She was already panicking. Thinking of the slap her mother gave her, she felt regretful. "You shouldn't be here. No, you shouldn't provoke when you. This stinky woman in front of me is indeed as barbaric and vulgar as my mother said. It wasn't for nothing." She covered her face and quickly calmed down. "And, I don't understand what you are talking about. Don't you want to see Lianyu? Why are you saying this now? Do you want to discredit me because the marriage can't work out? There is no evidence, and it is not that easy to pour dirty water on my head. Who is Mrs. Kiki? Yes, I want to smear you. Then, do you want me to grab your hair, drag it all the way to your mother-in-law in front of everyone, and apologize to your mother-in-law and daughter-in-law for me smearing you?" "You're crazy," Qin Lianyu blurted out, and I blamed Lian for not being able to bear the pressure from the family and marry someone else. I'm sorry for you and my cousin. Mother and I are always looking for opportunities. I apologize to you and my cousin. My mother called you several times, but you ignored her. In the end, she went back home disappointed and sad. Just now, Lian heard that her cousin was looking for her. She secretly hated herself. She had been too excited just now and thought the palace maid was talking about cousin. I thought you were no longer angry with Lian, so I wanted to talk to Lian in private. I'm sorry, and everything is Lian's fault. If you can vent your anger by hitting Lian, then you can continue to hit Lian. She bowed deeply, with tears hanging on her cheeks, which was very touching. MRSG was unmoved. There's no need to apologize. As long as you don't mess with me anymore, I won't look for you again. Qin Lianyu. MRSG continued, it's just that you have to return the money and items we gave you. This. Qin Lianyu shed tears and said cautiously, and, I can't remember clearly what happened when I was a child. I don't know what you are referring to. It doesn't matter if you don't know. I have already written a letter to your mother. She must be here soon, MRSG said with a smile. What? What did you do? Qin Lianyu was shocked. We need a debt. Go back and sort it out. If you don't get back the flowers after using them, ask your mother to make up for them. Don't be in a hurry when you have to pay them back. Why are you doing this to me? Qin Lianyu was heartbroken and on the verge of collapse. It seems as if MRSG is a bully. Eh? You don't think that if you take the money, you get it for nothing, do you? To tell you the truth, if Du Liu he dares not to pay it back, I will ask your mother-in-law to go. What kind of temper I have, Du Liu must know best. Even if the whole city is in trouble and the Zhang family divorces you, I don't care. Qin Lianyu was really crying now, and, no. Don't treat Lian Lian like this. Lian Lian couldn't help herself when she entered the Zhang family. Okay, don't do this to me anymore. And, I will pay back the money, I will pay it back, don't write to my mother. It's too late. My letter was sent the day after you found when you. After you pack your things, your mother is here. Let's discuss it. MRSG walked out and stopped again. During the Chinese New Year, I want to bring some gifts and go to the Zhang family to thank you. Fortunately, Zhang Er married you. Otherwise, my Xiao would be ruined. After finishing speaking, he spat at Qin Lianyu and left in a grand manner. Qin Lianyu was like the flower in the flower pot just now, shivering in the slightly cold wind. Sitting Pingting in the corner, feeling uncomfortable all over. Her sister-in-law found her and talked to her. Why do you feel that you don't look well? How about going outside with you to get some fresh air? Jiang's family has a good family tradition, and his aunt and sister-in-law get along well on weekdays. That's okay, it's too stuffy in this room. Yes. There are many people, and the wall is burning. Where is your cloak? You have to put it on to keep out the cold. Sister-in-law helped her find a cloak, walked to the door, and put it on for her. It was more comfortable outside. Let's walk into the courtyard. Before taking 2 steps, he met Qin Lianyu, who was sneaking back. She lowered her head and went directly to the bathroom. After walking forward for a while, Pingting felt more comfortable. As a result, the maid beside the concubine arrived. Putting on a small air, he said, "The concubine and grandson concubine are in the small Nuan pavilion next to you. They come over to talk to you." Zhang Pingting's anger rose again. "Tell her I'm not free." The maid was surprised. This servant is appointed by the grand concubine. Please don't mistake your identity as the concubine. Okay, then I will go find the crown princess and ask her. Today, the crown princess wants to see me alone many times. Where did she come from? After saying that, he turned around and ran towards the apps. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Duke's wife is beautiful but has a dark heart. Author, see the peach fish again. Chapter 306. Chapter 306. 2 more records. The maid was frightened and left quickly. As soon as Jiang's sister-in-law said hey, Zhang Pingting disappeared into the crowd. The crown princess stepped back from the queen and breathed in the small hall for a long time before she felt relieved. In fact, the queen really didn't cause any trouble today, but she seemed to have a shadow in her heart. She felt uncomfortable as long as she was around the queen. She found a few ladies to talk to in this small hall. The whole process was kind and cheerful. After socializing for a while, I went to relax, wash my hands and touch up my makeup, and then came back to sit and drink some tea. Jian Pingting came in. Your Majesty. The crown princess was a little surprised when she saw Zhang Pingting's face. Pingting, what's the matter? Your Majesty, today, concubine Taizhen repeatedly wanted Pingting to go to some hidden corners. If she couldn't invite Pingting in someone else's name, she gave the order directly. The crown princess looked calm. Oh? Then tell me, why did she do this? The grandson must have discovered that Pingting's menstrual period should come in the future. Pingting's eyes were clear and straight, and so was her attitude. The crown princess raised her eyebrows. Oh? Are you pregnant? It's not too late since the day has just arrived, so I didn't ask the imperial doctor for diagnosis. Pingting doesn't know. I know. You don't look good. If you are afraid of being tired, I will arrange a place for you to rest. Thank you, madam, for your consideration. It's not necessary. Pingting is a little irritable and wants to walk in the courtyard. That's okay. Don't be tired or catch a cold. Yes. Pingting went out. Call her to me. The crown princess still spoke slowly. not looking angry. Shui Ying has been having with Jiang's concubine these days because she feels that her grandson treats Jiang Pingting differently from everyone else. Although the people who keep Pingting close to her are all servants of the general's family, she has been in the East Palace for so many years and there is not much she doesn't know about her aunt. She recorded Pingting's menstruation, it will be 2 days in advance, which is extremely accurate. If you don't come, then something bad will happen. She knows that today is not a suitable day, but there is also a good thing, that is, no one knows it yet. He didn't even mention it in Jiang Pingting's house. It is better to strike first. Even if something goes wrong, it won't matter if my aunt is here. As a result, no one came after looking for him twice, but the female officer next to the crown princess waited. She went in listlessly. The princess came up and gave Shui Ying a slap in the face. Shui Ying was shocked, and she subconsciously covered her face. You should call me the crown princess. You idiot, the crown princess glared fiercely and ordered the female officer, let her stay here, and she is not allowed to go anywhere. I will settle the score with you later. Today is also a day for men in the capital's high gates, aged between 15 and 25, to gather. Hundreds of people came. After becoming a civil servant, they are basically taking scientific examinations. They dress elegantly and talk sour nonsense. The children of meritorious families are luxuriously dressed and full of style. Some of them are already serious military attaches. There are also second and third generation ancestors with sinecures, such as Jin Zi. They form their own clique and play together. These people and civil servants do not like each other. When Qi Yu arrived in the capital, he became famous because of his resemblance to Qi Wu. Also supported by his grandfather, he was generous. And it seems that he is much easier to get close to than Qi Wu. Go to the flower house and also the casino. Watching operas and listening to music, traveling to the lake and drinking, riding horses and playing ball games, you can have fun in everything. In a short period of time, he made dozens of friends from very good backgrounds. I can't even arrange all my daily entertainment. Moreover, it feels like being the boss who responds to everything at once. Qi Yu also felt very refreshed. The people around me now behave like sons of aristocratic families. It's not just about having a good family background, dressing well, spending money like water, and being outstanding. Moreover, everyone has some talents. At this moment, a bunch of people were surrounding him, shouting and excited about the bet they had just placed. In the midst of the excitement, Gold sneaked over in a sneaky way. Someone saw him and asked, "Brother Jinzi, how is your eldest son doing?" Jinzi was very proud. Hey, his mother spoiled him rotten and endorsed him every day. I told him not to take him to watch polo, for fear that he would become a pretty boy. Everyone laughed. Someone immediately told Qi Yu the whole thing from beginning to end. Qi Yu couldn't believe it. Is there still such a thing? Someone else asked, "Jinzi, why are you so evasive today? Whose wife did you steal and was discovered by the owner of the family, and he is looking for you to settle the score?" Haha, everyone is laughing again. Jinzi went over and kicked the man, but the man patted the ground and didn't care. Yeah, what's wrong with Gold? You always look back. Who are you guarding against? Don't mention it, Duan Muna King of Hell is back. When the people present heard this, several of them immediately lost their smiles. Really? I haven't heard of it. There are also those who can still maintain a smile. What are you afraid of him doing? If you don't offend the river now, he won't be able to stay for a few days, right? Qi Yu's curiosity, who are you talking about? Alas, it's a nightmare for those of us. The only son of Princess Huijuan. Why are you so afraid of him? It's hard to explain in one word. He is a demon king. Gold knows best. Jinzi smiled bitterly. I don't care about you, I'm really convinced. When I mentioned gold before, he looked like a second-rate man. He was a man who ate, drank, and went whoring. Everyone looked down upon him. But he also grew up receiving education from children of aristocratic families. Children from families like Jingcheng have special places to go to school. They have subjects such as the 4 books and the 5 classics, horseback riding and archery, music, chess, calligraphy and painting. Only families like them can afford to learn these. But it's not a good idea to have all these people piled up in class. It's common for the teacher to be so angry that he vomits blood and can't get out of bed. Although Jin Zi has a strange mind and a stupid person, he is not completely incompetent. It can be used for horseback riding, archery, wrestling and fighting. Furthermore, he has nothing to fear, and has committed countless sins. Duan Muai was younger than Jin Zi. When he first came to school, Jin Zi had already won one fight after another. He was the eldest brother among these people. Campus bullying is also something that Jin Zi's younger brothers often do. Princess Huijuan is well known in the capital. There are few people like her who make the decision on their own marriage. Moreover, let's get married. Moreover, the Duan Mu Tanhualang has died of illness. So, when Jin Zi looked at Duan Mu as a freshman, he felt very displeased and wanted to bully him for no reason. Unexpectedly, Duan Mu was smaller than him. But he has a strong temper, dares to strike, strikes ruthlessly, and refuses to admit defeat. He was not convinced, but the gold did. Joke. This fight resulted in several near misses. As Duan Mu grew up and gained combat experience, Jin Zi became unable to do anything. He asked Duan Mu to open a ladle, break his arm, and almost blind him. Finally, he defeated Jin Jin and snatched his position as the eldest brother. Moreover, Duan Mu has become addicted to alcohol and this place can no longer accommodate him. I took a group of boys out to play, listen to a play, drink wine in a brothel, and gamble. A group of young men are trying to steal the flower girls from others, and they don't intend to do anything, they just want to make others unhappy. At the casino, I would often play around and destroy other people's places by looking for trouble. There are always people behind the casino, and when I met someone with a mafia background, I got a few lives lost. Finally, the city defense and Dali temple were alarmed. In the end, even the emperor became anxious and grabbed him. In the end, Duan Muai said that he was right, but the emperor wanted to chop off his head, and he accepted it. Moreover, he said that he was keeping the capital safe for the emperor. The emperor waved his hand and gave him 20 sticks. He begged loudly, but he smiled the whole time. When the emperor heard about it, he was so angry that he almost had him beheaded. Princess Huijuan had no choice but to send her son away. The capital suddenly became quiet, which made everyone not used to it. Once he left, he didn't come back for several years. Why did he come back this time? You haven't heard? Someone suppressed a laugh. Jin Jin put his finger on his mouth nervously and shushed, stop talking. Turn around and let him listen, it's troublesome. Gold, it seems you are really scared. Hey. If you don't agree, go ahead. There's someone sitting here who dares to challenge him. I'll send the newly acquired mastiff. That's a good one. I don't know what it means to be afraid of a biter. Chi Yu smiled mockingly. He didn't accept it, but he just didn't have the reason to stand up. Chi Yu, your 5th brother was in the limelight last year. Jin Zi was infinitely envious. Afterwards, I heard that many women were asking about him. This year, you should also be in the spotlight. Hey, what's the matter? Sons. Chi Yu didn't want to hear this topic, so he asked, let's talk about Duan Mu, what is he like? Someone pointed and said, there it is, look. I saw a person over there, sitting there in a grand manner, surrounded by dozens of people, including several who personally served him tea and water. When he said something, the people around him burst into laughter, even if it wasn't funny. It's very much like myself in the Northwest. But he is surrounded by country bumpkins, and here are children from aristocratic families in the capital. His heart started to itch. Jinzi, didn't you get along well with Duanmu later? Why are you still afraid of him? Someone asked Jinzi again. I'm not afraid, just a little scared. Everyone laughed contemptuously again, and Jinzi said proudly, after all, I am a father now, so if I let him beat me again, it will not look good on my face. Chiyu was unwilling to give in and asked the people next to him, what were you doing so mysteriously just now? What happened to him when he came back? Finally, a know-it-all answered, his father has passed away many years ago, and the princess wants to remarry. When Chiyu heard this, her face was full of ridicule. Is there such a thing? How old is she, and she still remarries? Someone next to me quickly said, come on, this is other people's business, let's not talk about it. Jinzi said, don't tell me, the person I want to marry has something to do with you, Chiyu. Chiyu blinked and said in a gentle tone, don't talk nonsense, it has nothing to do with me. Some people around me turned pale. At this moment, Jinzi was very courageous. The man he wants to marry is the second uncle of Chiwu's wife's mother's family. What? Chiyu laughed again after hearing this. This is so funny. There are a lot of new things happening in the Wen family. Chiwu doesn't know where he got such a family relationship. Look at this, what a mess, he said with a mean look on his face. After hearing this, Jinzi suddenly ended the topic, joked for a few words, and walked away quickly. After a while, suddenly, who is Chiyu? A lazy voice came. Chiyu's group turned around and saw that several people stood up immediately and put on smiling faces. Brother Duanmu, when did you come back? Yeah, why haven't you heard of it? Duanmu ignored them and searched around among them, his eyes falling on Chiyu. That look is very unrestrained. Who is Chiyu afraid of? He's awesome, so I'm a coward? If you're not talented, I'll do it. Chiyu grinned slightly, displaying his usual arrogant and sarcastic look. As soon as the figure flashed, he received a blow on the face. Good morning. Today's focus is on 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. The Duke's wife is beautiful but has a dark heart. Author, see the peach fish again. Chapter 307. Chapter 307. That's a hobby. When you followed the maid in and bowed according to the rules. The emperor was supposed to leave, but he stayed for a while just to see how Chiwu's wife was doing. Looking down at this beautiful woman, he nodded towards the queen. It means, Kui Fengying is quite reliable, at least this girl is pleasing to the eye. Although she is not as upright and well behaved as most ladies. But it can be considered generous and not coquettish. With Chiwu, that's fine too. Wen Shizu stood aside, smiling when he saw Wen Yu coming in. He looked so happy. Wen Yu stood up and stood next to her. The next to him whispered, long live the Lord, the time has come. The emperor nodded, and the shouted, get off. Among the people in the room, Wen Yu, who had just stood up, knelt down with everyone else. The queen also stood up. The little old man walked down the steps step by step and walked in front of people. His expression was indescribably noble and domineering. After everyone stood up, Wen Yu peeked at the queen, who was much younger than the emperor. In terms of appearance, it's really not outstanding, with a silver face, thin almond-shaped eyes, and fair skin. Sitting there, his expression was relaxed and he had no airs at all. Even the princess is a little deliberate sometimes. Presumably, this empress has a strong temperament and her background supports her. Just now, the emperor's concubine was sitting in the room. The crown princess also came back, as well as Princess Wu, Princess An, etc. After the emperor left, about 20 women and girls came in one after another. The queen waved her hand casually and asked everyone to sit down. She was looking at Wenyu. Wenyu, Wenshizhu, did you two grow up together? He said softly and gently, back to my wife and Zuzu have been together since birth. They eat from the same bowl and sleep on the same bed. They are closer than real sisters. This is really rare. I have heard Master Wen's story several times, it's like it's written in a storybook. The female officer next to her reminded her in a low voice, Your Majesty. How can the queen read those books casually? I have to set an example for women all over the world. The queen glared at the female official unhappily, and then said, The name Wenshizu is well chosen, it is very appropriate. Even the emperor said that in the court recently, Mr. Wen has been laughing from ear to ear all day long, and he has been quarreling with others. Time is running out. Everyone laughed. Wenshizu was a little embarrassed. The crown princess was sitting under the queen's feet, also looking at Wenyu and Wenshizu. They have been to the East Palace several times and even went to the hot springs with the prince. All I know is that these two are good friends of the general's concubine. Although she had seen it before, she really didn't take it to heart. It was thought that they were born into a beautiful country, but because they did not have a good background, they clung to some powerful people to support them. Such women are not uncommon. But today, seeing them walking in front of the emperor and the queen, I couldn't help but evaluate in my heart, Shui Ying should be my friend. When I thought of Shui Ying, I couldn't help but frown secretly. That was something she had grown up watching, and knew that although she had a domineering temperament, she was not completely without abilities. Especially when getting along with some high-ranking women, you can have a good time. This is very important. Why is it becoming less and less effective? I had a lot to do, so I neglected her a little. When I looked at her again, she looked like this. Confused and reckless, with no success at all. He actually wants to cause trouble in the palace. Princess Wu was sitting under concubine Xiang, smiling bitterly in her heart. My silly son is thinking about these two. He knew a few days ago that Master Wen was going to recognize his daughter, and he was not in a good mood. However, this guy has good eyesight. I was careless. If the matter had been done earlier and Mr. Wen had recognized his daughter, the situation would have been great. The queen asked Wenyu, last time I asked you to enter the palace, I didn't have time to see you. I saw the embroidery you brought and found it to be an old thing. It should be the embroidery method of the Bai family. Nowadays, those things are not easy to find. Wenyu was curious, Madam, do you also know the Bai family? Do you know what's so strange about this palace? The queen was unhappy. I know a lot. Your Majesty, what I mean is that you were not born when the Bai family was in trouble, right? Humph. I know that you are trying to praise me for being young. How can you flatter me at such a young age? Wenyu was a little embarrassed. This queen. I made a mistake. Madam, the embroidery is good, but what's the point? Although you run an embroidery shop, your horizons are really limited. I also have the embroidery products of the Bai family. The master I followed when I was a child would always talk about the embroidery piece. Not to mention the strange stitching method. The stuff underneath, it's like cotton but not cotton, it's plump but it doesn't collapse, so the petals have been so bulging for many years, I even took them apart and looked at them. After she finished speaking, she remembered the things she made when she was a girl. Hurry and stop talking. Even the emperor knows it. It is said that there is a famous temple in the northwest that has this skill, and it is said to be a secret. But it is not clear who had it first, or the Bai family. I heard that you opened at Jiulu, business is pretty good. What are you doing? So when you introduced the shop in detail. Wen Shizu laughed the whole time. In the end, the queen looked at her and asked, You make all the dim sum. Where did you learn how to make them? Wen Shizu said, Some of them taste delicious, so I want to know how they make them. Just like the Empress, you will understand once you take them apart and taste them. Some of them are ingredients that you have on hand, so you want to know how to make them. They will be delicious. Au was very stubborn. She didn't like eating meat when she was little. She said it had a strange taste and she was very thin at that time. So I tried my best to make her eat more. She spoke like this, which was very pleasing to the queen. Well, you are so kind to her. This girl Wenchizhu is very suitable for me. When you are too smart and picky. Let her make up your own tricks. I take care of you, why don't I like you? Mrs. Li was sitting next to her. She nodded and smiled when she heard the words, and said, Your Majesty has a wise eye. The crown princess looked at Wen Yu. The queen's words are quite unpleasant. Let's see how she reacts. As a result, Wen Yu smiled helplessly and said, Empress, please allow me to defend myself a few words. When the queen heard this, she laughed first and said, You said it was just quibbles. Okay. Then I will allow you to quibble. Everyone laughed again. My dearest lady, I was born in a well-off family and lived the life of an ordinary girl. I spent the whole day getting some food and clothing, and I could only read a few words. When I arrived in the capital, everything seemed new. If my mother-in-law hadn't handed over the shop to my wife to take care of, I wouldn't have been able to support the current situation on my own. But with a store, it was not easy to open it. In those days, I was very worried. My hair is almost gone. Humph, exaggeration, the queen looked at her thick black hair with envy. Your Majesty, every time I open my eyes, there are more than 200 people pointing at me to support my family. If they are not smart in calculations and hard-working, those people will bang pots and pans and ask for money and food from me. The queen smiled. On the martial arts field, Chi Yu felt a huge pain on his face, and he realized that he had been beaten. Everyone around them took a deep breath. As yesterday happened again, they all stood there and did not dare to move. They just said in their mouths, Brother Duan Muo, don't be angry, don't be angry. Chi Yu was not a bad person. He didn't ask why did you hit me, he got up and rushed towards Duan Muo. Duan Muo dodged and punched out. Chi Yu didn't pounce, but turned around and kicked. Duan Muo's fist hit the side of his foot and shook it away. The two people got together again and started fighting. The person next to him just yelled in vain, Oh, stop fighting. Stop it now, don't let the emperor see it. Yes, yes. The emperor will be here soon. Stop, however, even though there were people trying to persuade him, no one came forward. When there was a new generation, I wanted to go up to start a fight, but I was grabbed by the people next to me first. Don't go. If you interrupt that person's interest, he will turn around and beat you. Yeah, are you really so unreasonable? Yeah, everyone nodded. The fight between the two became fierce, with fists and feet hitting their bodies with a bang-bang sound, and the sound of clothes tearing could also be heard. The precious jade pendant on Chi Yu fell aside. The hairpin on her head was gone, and her hair was hanging down. There has been blood. People who have nothing to do with themselves watch it with great interest. This is more exciting than a competition in the martial arts field. They fought over a large area, and wherever they hit, everyone quickly moved out of the way. After calling him, everyone went up to take a look. Jin Zi must also be the one who smiles happily. He has long been asked by the King of Hell to give him tasks. His role today is to pick up the things and then report. After a while, 80% will still testify. Actually, he didn't want to do this, and Chi Yu had never offended him, but who told him to offend someone he shouldn't have? In line with the original intention of saying, no matter how many Taoist friends die, Ping Tao cannot die, Jin Zi promoted this matter as a matter of course and without any guilt. Maybe he doesn't even know what guilt feels like. If the Qi family understands and comes to find, let Grandpa handle it. By the way, this is really good looking, yeah, kick him in the back. Oh, I forgot to set up the game. Otherwise, I could have made a lot of money. Concerned about the gain and loss of gold, the two men fought until their eyes turned red. Chi-yu couldn't figure it out no matter what did the other party want to do, to use me to establish his power? But look at what he's going to do, this is no ordinary competition, it's really a fight to the death. He suffered a lot although he was under high tension, he didn't feel much pain, but this was wrong. Why hasn't Grandpa come yet? Damn it, why didn't the person next to you pull me away? The two of them had no weapons and were just fighting hand to hand, so it took a very long time. Chi-yu is not soft-tempered and has practiced seriously. I actually fought on the battlefield. But that's a battlefield. Although he has seen a lot of casualties, he is the young master of the Chi family army, and he has never fought anyone with real swords and guns. When he was a child, he beat people, but never got into a fight. Who dares to fight him? Therefore, compared with Duan Mu, an expert in fighting, he is really incomparable. Moreover, from the way he killed those weak women, we know that he is more vicious, tricksy, and pervertedly satisfied. It's not like Duan Mu, who doesn't need a reason to defeat his opponent, that's his hobby. Duan Mu was also injured, and the blood at the corner of his mouth was salty and fishy, which made him even more excited. The more dissatisfied his opponent was, the more energetic he became. Thinking about the past few days, I suffered such a big loss. If these former boys knew about him, they would all say that he was not as brave as he used to be. How could he still do that? Angry in his heart, he took off and flew forward, kicking Chi-yu's left shoulder and arm. Chi-yu took a few steps back and fell to the ground. Duan Mu didn't stop for a moment, and he picked up an iron stand with a gun next to him and raised it high above his head, his eyes flashing fiercely. He seems to be about to kill someone. Chi-yu wanted to get up, but her shoulders couldn't use up the strength and she couldn't get up for a while. The Duke's wife is beautiful but has a dark heart. Author, see the peach fish again. Chapter 308. Chapter 308, When the moon is full, it will be waning. Chi-yu was lying on the ground and was frightened when he saw Duan Mu's fierce look. With a look of pleading on his face, he said silently, "Spare my life." As soon as these two words came out of my mouth, I completely collapsed. At this moment, someone suddenly shouted, "Stop!" It felt like that person was still some distance away, but the confidence came from his ears. Duan Mu ignored him, with a sinister smile on his face, and he took the iron frame and leaned back again, apparently wanting to hit it harder. "Stop!" The cry came to him like lightning, but Duan Mu's hand had already fallen. Chi-yu screamed, "Ah!" With a bang sound, the thing hit Chi-yu's head, causing the stone pavement on the ground to shatter. The shelf also changed its shape and shook to one side, making a buzzing sound, showing how strong the force was. Chi-yu almost peed with fright, her face turned pale, and she stared blankly at the iron frame. If this is my head, for a moment, it feels like I am surviving a disaster. The people who came have already captured Duan Mu. Someone shouted, "The Emperor is here." Actually, Duan Mu didn't really want to hit him at that last moment. On a day like today, if I beat him to death, I might not be able to escape. So, I deliberately missed the target to scare him. You can hear him screaming and begging for mercy, and the effect is adequate. Anyway, the days are long. As soon as Duan Mu heard that the Emperor was coming, he immediately knelt down on one leg solemnly, "I respectfully welcome the Emperor." The Emperor's face sank like water, and he got out of the chariot casually. Step by step, he walked up to the scene and looked at the messy scene. The one lying on the ground seemed to be struggling and hadn't gotten up yet. "Chi-yu," there was a low cry and a figure passed by. It turned out to be Chi-ho, who came with the Emperor. Chi-yu's face turned pale. He wanted to get up, but he couldn't use the strength. Don't move, Chi-ho had experience and was afraid of breaking something. His face was red and purple, his heart was beating fast, he was distressed and angry. The emperor looked at them coldly. Everyone knelt down, lowered their heads, and did not dare to say a word. Chi-ho called out his name and ran towards him, and the emperor knew that he was a descendant of the Chi family. And the person in front of me, Duan Mu, although his hair was not disheveled, he was prepared and tied tightly, was also punched in the face, the corners of his mouth were bleeding, and his cheeks were swollen. Although the teeth were not lost and the bones were not broken, the appearance was quite scary. The emperor bent down and looked carefully. You. Duan Muwai grinned, long live my lord, I am my minister. He was very affectionate. To be honest, his mother was really close to the emperor. The emperor's head buzzed, knowing that this was back. He shamelessly sent a letter to the palace, wanting to see me. See a ball. Finally sent him away, see you again? But how did he? Duan Muwai. Your Majesty has great eyesight. His, Duan Muwai smiled widely, tugging at the corners of his mouth. The emperor was not calm anymore, so he went up and gave him a kick. You bastard! Duan Mu immediately fell to the ground and rolled around twice. It seemed that he was kicked by the emperor, but in fact he wanted to stay away from the emperor. He knelt down again and said, Your Majesty. I haven't seen you for a few years. Your energy is even better than before. The kick hurt me so much, he grinned. The emperor was a little confused. Why is he still such a rogue now? Didn't you always call with your neck in your hands? What are you doing? The emperor pointed. Chi-ho and the people beside him had already helped Chi-yu up. The left clavicle is not working hard and I am afraid it may be broken. Duan Muwai said confidently, back to Lord Long Live, I am dealing with the villain who is not Yuchen's mother. Before the emperor could speak, Chi-ho said, Your Majesty, this is, my grandson Chi-yu. Under the protection of his grandfather, Chi-yu was emotionally stable and said in a deep voice, Your Majesty, I. Kyo said, Your Majesty, he did something inappropriate at your birthday banquet. Please punish him. The emperor turned to the and said, Call Lao Zhang and see how the injury is. Your Majesty. This is just a superficial wound, it's not a problem. Duan Muwai thought the emperor was talking about himself. Who said anything about you, you bastard? After all these years, I thought you had changed, but I didn't expect that you are even more arrogant than before. Someone, come to me. Your Majesty. Today is a good day for you, so don't be angry. The fight between me and Chi-yu is also a test between your Northwest Army and Southwest Army. Let your Majesty see who of us is braver. Who is more capable of your country. I'll calm you down and protect you. You. The emperor pointed at him and was so angry that he couldn't speak. If today was not my good day, I would have to drag him out and chop him down. King Wu wanted to sell well and said quickly, Father, there are still many things waiting for you to take charge. For this matter, it is better to let the doctor see if there are any injuries. You can ask the reason later. Taijun was also in the crowd. He was admiring it in a good mood and did not flatter the emperor. Your Majesty said loudly, yes, horse racing, playing ball, and competitions have all reached the finals, so don't let them all be delayed. Forget it. Let the doctor show Chi-yu first. This bastard, just kneel here for me. The emperor gave him a fierce look and left. Duan Mu put down his other leg, knelt down, and answered loudly, yes. Then, he wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, glanced at Chi-ho with a half smile, and then glanced at Chi-yu with disgust. At this moment, Chi-yu felt pain all over his body. Especially the left half of the body cannot use any strength at all. Chi-ho didn't say much. They found a nearby house. He personally supported his grandson and went inside to wait for the imperial doctor. Over there, the emperor suppressed his anger and said, "Where are you? Let's start." The concubine was supported by her sister-in-law and walked violently around the courtyard several times before the anger in her heart subsided. Her sister-in-law felt something was wrong. Normally, this sister-in-law was the most sensible, cheerful, and did not care about everything. "Why are you so irritable today? Did you suffer a great injustice in the East Palace?" Seeing that she was getting better, I was ready to ask. "When you pulled Wen Shizu, Zhang mocking, and others to look for her." Seeing them coming, Zhang Pingting smiled, "What did the queen say to you?" "Empress likes Zuzu, but she doesn't like me. She says I'm too smart." When you felt aggrieved. A few people laughed and said, "Your Majesty, you are indeed very discerning." "Hey, why do you all talk the same thing as Mrs. Li? I am complimenting you." When you took Pingting's arm and slowly walked forward, "How is it?" she asked in a low voice. "I went to find the crown princess and ask her to restrain her." Zhang Pingting became much calmer. "If you are really pregnant, you still have to take precautions." "I know, if you don't take precautions, nothing will happen, right?" Zhang Pingting said with a sneer. "The grandson has someone in his hands, let him arrange it. There's nothing wrong with me protecting myself. Besides, I still have my father and brother at home. But sometimes I get very discouraged. I don't know what's going on outside, and the prince's health is like this. But in the end, she doesn't care about anything and does whatever she wants." "Your Majesty, how can a queen do as she pleases? What an idiot. Perhaps, she is childless and mentally unbalanced. Go back and clean up the people in the yard. Search, there is nothing else." "I know. It's not just me, you are not at peace either. Looking at this handwriting, there must be something we don't know. You have to be more careful." The Tan family, together with the Lu family and the Zhu family, walked around in a big circle. Mr. Lu is gentle and low-key, while Mr. Zhu is bright and generous, and has gained a lot of favor. Moreover, she also gave up the idea of a few people who wanted to go to Yunwan to make clothes. For Mr. Tan, his horizons only stop here, so he is very proud. Things have been going so well recently. But at this moment, a palace maid asked her to come to the door, saying that someone was looking for her. When Tan arrived outside the door, a sergeant stood there and whispered something to her in a low voice. "What did you say?" Tan screamed. "You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Duke's wife is beautiful but has a dark heart." Author, see the peach fish again. Chapter 309. Chapter 309. No more pretending. When you had no idea that a fight had started over there. She met her grandmother and found out that her father had been promoted a few days ago. Furthermore, she also discovered that her grandmother was obviously swollen. He was talking to her with excitement. General Duanmu from the princess's family is really a talented person. At this age, he has not even decided on the marriage, which is really worrying. He looked at his junior. When you looked at the old lady and smiled without saying a word. "Ayu," you said, "your second uncle is getting married to the princess. If Jiao Jiao marries Duanmu again, isn't it against the rules?" She knew this was against the rules, but that didn't mean she didn't want to break the rules. When you nodded directly, "Yes. It's against the rules." Oh, old Mrs. Wen was obviously disappointed. "What a pity." "It's not a pity. Although General Duanmu is good, haven't you heard of his deeds? Do you think third sister can do it?" As he spoke, he looked for Sister Wenjiao in the crowd. "Isn't there? There is also a princess." Old Mrs. Wen was persistent in her evil intentions. "Grandma, if the princess could manage it, she wouldn't send him away." But what about gentleness? How gentle is her temperament? Wen Yu was shocked. What are you talking about? Marrying the Wen family's concubine to the princess's legitimate son? You might as well just slap the princess, she almost laughed angrily. But Mrs. Wen actually still looked shrewd. You don't know this. Let me tell you, the princess may feel guilty for Wen Jiao and the others. She often takes them to socialize and trusts her to someone is helping them find a family. In fact, this is also true. After all, she owes the Wen family for marrying your second uncle. Grandma Wen Yu said politely. It's the second uncle who should feel guilty, right? It's the second uncle who owes the Wen family, right? Was it because the princess forced the second aunt to be kicked out? Isn't all this a choice made by the second uncle? Now, you see, look at the well-dressed and proud second uncle. When you finally found Wen Jiao and Wen Wan in the crowd. They were following the princess step by step. Wen Su didn't see them. The two Wen girls were well-dressed and had bright smiles. Are they a little bit sad? When everyone is happy, how can we talk about guilt and debt? That's just. Wen Yu quickly covered her mouth. Old Mrs. Wen understood that what Wen Yu wanted to say next was, be both responsible and independent, so she glared at her with great dissatisfaction. Grandma is just chatting with you. You are not an outsider. If you have any personal thoughts, you can't talk to her, you said. Wen Yu smiled and didn't take it seriously. One more thing, Grandma, it is very inappropriate to entrust Wen Jiao's marriage to the princess. Why? Old Mrs. Wen looked at Wen Yu suspiciously. What did she mean? Are you afraid that Jiao will surpass her? You don't even think about it. Who was the husband the princess chose for herself back then? Who is the husband she chose for her second marriage now? You are asking around here, is there any lady who would say that she chooses her husband carefully? She is a princess, and she has a certain structure. She only wants to be compatible and be happy with her. Don't care about anything else. Is your Jiao son okay? When you rolled his eyes. Oh, you said that. Old Mrs. Wen was also startled. It would be bad if the princess chose a poor Jinchi for Wen Xiao. Ew, aren't there any young people like Chi Wu around you? When you didn't answer. She was a little conflicted. She once hoped that her grandmother and second uncle would be severely punished after they had greatly offended the princess and Duan Mu. Now, although the princess is very self-centered and Duan Mu is very cruel, they do what they want and are good to themselves. It would not be good if they were allowed to experience embarrassment and pain because of their second uncle. Let's screw this up. Wen Jiao turned around to see her grandmother and Wen Yu, smiled, and then turned away. He had no intention of currying favor with Wen Yu. Wen Yu smiled secretly. She really regarded herself as the princess's biological daughter. At this moment, Mrs. Tan walked into the palace in panic, and Mrs. Lu and Mrs. Zhu followed behind in confusion. Wen Yu saw it at a glance and said to Mrs. Wen, Grandma, I have something to do with my mother-in-law. Go, go, old Mrs. Wen thought about something. Wen Yu went over and touched Mrs. who was talking to someone. Mrs. turned to look at her mysterious look, understanding. So he ended the topic and moved in quietly. As soon as she arrived at the door, she heard Mrs. Tan screaming inside, Empress! I almost. She swallowed these words, kill him alive. On a day like today, Ms. Tan didn't dare to cry even if she wanted to. She knelt there, angry and worried, and even trembling. Are you right? You mean Chi Yu was beaten by Duan Muai? The queen wanted to be serious, but for some reason, she felt like laughing. Come here, bring Hui Duan to me. Old lady, get up and speak slowly. Princess Huijuan is getting married, and his clothes are not as plain as before. The clothes that Zayun wanted to make were carefully designed by Master Cheng. Elegant but not plain, bright but not flashy, very beautiful. And she was different from other women. She could still dance and move a lot on weekdays. She still had a slender waist even in middle age. Her entire body was as slim as a little girl's. When the queen saw it, she immediately covered her belly with her sleeves, and her anger stopped. Princess Huijuan stepped forward and saluted. "Queen, are you looking for Huijuan?" The princesses and princesses who were sitting wanted to laugh when they saw her. Although their status is not low, none of them can live as freely as she does. Although he often tries to tease her behind her back, it would be a lie to say that he is not envious. Tan's legs became weak from anger and she sat down. Seeing these people, they were smiling and didn't take her and her grandson seriously at all. They clenched their hands tightly as if they were filled with hatred. The queen said angrily, "Huijuan, why does your son cause trouble as soon as he comes back? Don't just think about yourself all day long. When your son is born, you must also teach him." "Mother, you said Huijuan is confused. What trouble did he get into?" The princess really didn't know that her son was beating someone. The queen pointed at Mr. Tan. He couldn't help but go up and beat up Chi Yu from Zhen Yuanho's family. Princess Huijuan looked at Mrs. Tan. Mrs. Tan's eyes were staring at her with hatred. But she still didn't understand, what was the queen's tone. "Quite excited. Mother, when did it happen?" The queen just heard the beginning and asked her to come in. She couldn't understand it for a while. "Old Mrs. you say it yourself." Mrs. Tan glared at Huijuan and said in a shrill voice, "Just now, General Duanmu didn't even say a word. He just went up and took action. The emperor caught him. I would like to ask the princess for advice. Where is the Zhen Yuan Marquis mansion? He has offended the princess's palace, and he wants to treat my grandson like this." After she finished speaking, she remembered, this princess wanted to marry Wen Yu's second uncle shamelessly. Could it be Wen Yu who instigated it? It shouldn't be. It doesn't depend on anything. Princess Huijuan is not anxious at all. She has experienced too much. This princess has nothing to do with the wells and rivers of Zhen Yuanho. There has never been any grudge. Since the emperor caught him personally, let us listen to the emperor's inquiry. I am not here, I can't answer any questions at the scene. But the queen said, if anything happens, you can't do anything today. He has been out for so many years and thought he had improved. But he turned out to be even more arrogant. This time, the queen and the emperor said the same thing. It's completely up to you, he added. The princess didn't like to hear it, but she didn't care about it. Mother, please don't be angry. Why don't we ask someone to ask what kind of person they were beaten to? It was you who led us to see. She almost said the word lively. Speak out, the emperor will interrogate you, or should you wait until the emperor comes back? Her tone made Mrs. Tan want to rush over and pull her hair. The queen originally wanted to watch the excitement, but was a little embarrassed. That's exactly what you said, sit down. Go over and have a look and see what the emperor says, she ordered the female officer. Mrs. Tan said to Mrs. Lu, you should also come over and see how Yu is doing. When Mr. Lu entered the house, she found out that her son had been beaten. She was very anxious. After bowing to the queen, she hurried away. Mrs. Zhu stared at the princess angrily, wanting to kill her. Huijuan sensed her malice, picked up the shelf, and glanced at her contemptuously. Zhu couldn't bear the pressure and looked away. Huijuan sneered in his heart, you are amazing. The crown princess has been sitting under the queen's feet. Seeing the queen's appearance, she felt dissatisfied. She had forgotten the scandal caused by Jin Jin at the East Palace banquet. Still watching the joke about the queen hosting a palace banquet. The queen looked at Huijuan with a sour look and asked, what woman wouldn't want to be like her? Huijuan, are you getting married soon? Go back to your majesty, it's almost time. Where does that man live in the capital? It's in the west of the city. However, after getting married, We still live in the princess's mansion. Ah, you found a son-in-law who came to your house, the queen was exaggeratedly surprised. The princess knew that the queen always spoke with malice to her. Outside, the news has spread. There is a wife whose children and grandchildren were beaten violently by Duanmu for no reason. Thinking of the past, she was so angry that she had a toothache. Everyone mentioned him one after another, but none of them spoke in a good tone. It would be inappropriate for MRSG to remain silent, so she took Wang, Wenyu, and Zhang Mocking in. Empress, they first paid tribute to the queen. The empress laughed at Huiduan and was in a good mood. She actually smiled and said to MRSG and others, "Sit down and wait for news from the emperor." Mr. Tan's heart was full of malice, and she sat gloomily. There was no trace of her former amiability. When MRSG came to greet her, it was as if they didn't see it. "You are here to see my joke, right? I treat you well on weekdays, but you all don't know how high the sky is and how high it is. Then just wait for me." Starting from that master, followed by Su, Chi Xiao, Chi Wu, and Wen Yu, I killed them all one by one. Leave Ms. Kui alone and let her have a good taste of what this is like. The Duke's wife is beautiful but has a dark heart. Author, see the peach fish again. Chapter 310. Chapter 310 Judgment of the Gourd Case. A group of people have indeed been waiting for a long time. Over there, fortunately everything went smoothly afterwards. The emperor, who had completed various ceremonies with drums and music, returned here. Hao Zichi followed behind the emperor. Behind him were guards supporting Qi Yu, and Ms. Lu beside her, all looking ugly. Qi Yuyi and Qi Wu followed last. The grandson also came back, but immediately went to the small hall to see the prince. He didn't care about this bad thing. The queen asked concubine Xiang to go out and send all the ladies away. She wanted to stay and watch the excitement. No, she wanted to listen to the emperor personally judge the case. Mrs. Tan looked at the ancestors and grandsons of the Qi family, and quickly took a few steps closer. Her eyes were slightly moist, and she called out Master Ho. With difficulty. Qi Zhen nodded to express comfort. She turned to Qi Yu behind her again, with unconcealable and genuine concern in her eyes. MRSG looked at Qi Yuyi funny, and wanted to ask him if he had ever felt this kind of look from his mother. "Do you know the difference between pretending and being real?" "How?" Tan's voice trembled. Mr. Zhu also ran to Qi Yu's side. "Husband, how are you?" She couldn't control her voice, it was a bit loud. Qi Yu frowned and ignored her. Mrs. Lu whispered to Mrs. Tan, "The doctor said that there is no obvious fracture, but the pain and weakness suggest that there is a crack. Therefore, you can't move around for now. Apply ointment, lift and tie your left hand, which can alleviate the pain a little painful." Mrs. Tan listened and looked at her grandson's beautiful face, which was bruised and swollen from being beaten, and his hair was combed. He was really embarrassed. He was such a good-looking person. Ms. Tan felt extremely distressed and looked at Duanmu fiercely. Duanmu knelt there for a long time, and his legs were a little numb when he first stood up. He was immediately supported by Jin Zi and other younger brothers. Now he can move freely, but his face is also bruised and ugly. Princess Huijuan looked at his miserable appearance, glared at him, snorted, and did not go over to ask him how he was. Compared with Qi Yu, she is cared for in all aspects by her grandmother, mother, and wife. Duanmu shook his head and sighed, "Look at others, and then look at yourself. There is really no comparison between people," he also sighed. "Which one of you will speak first?" the emperor asked coldly. Qi Yu asked Qi Ho to teach him a lesson. "Your Majesty," he struggled to kneel down. The emperor quickly said, "Okay. Sit down and talk, don't make mistakes by moving around." "Thank you, Your Majesty," Qi Yu replied, but did not sit down and said directly, "Today, I was talking to some friends. Duan Muai came over and asked who Chi Yu was. I had never known him before, so he said I was. As a result, he didn't even say a second word, and he was beaten. How did Wei Chen think that this would happen in the palace? So he suffered a huge loss. Duan Mu laughed when he heard this. Okay, young man. Quite good at speaking. Oh, it was because I didn't expect that I would take action, so I suffered a loss. It's not that I couldn't beat him. When the emperor saw that he was still smiling, he became even more angry. You bitch, if you can't give me a reason today, I will break your legs. Chi Ho frowned secretly. The emperor scolded him fiercely, which was not a bad thing. I also remembered that back then, this caused a fight with hundreds of people on the streets of the capital city. Several people died at once. The emperor gave him a light punishment in the end. Duan Muai responded loudly and solemnly, yes. Your Majesty then, he said in a low voice, Your Majesty, I believe you also know that my mother is getting remarried. When everyone heard this, why did we get into this? Chi Yu also murmured in her heart. Is it because of what I said? But I didn't say anything? The emperor glanced at Huijuan and snorted. Cursing secretly, uncouth thing. Chen's father passed away early. Being a minister doesn't make my mother worry much. He also got sad. The emperor sneered, you know it yourself. Yes, Your Majesty, I understand it's not easy for my mother, so, when she wrote a letter saying that she wanted to remarry, I blessed my mother without saying a word and rushed back to attend my mother's wedding. In this world, the rules for thousands of years have been stricter on women. There will definitely be people talking about my mother's remarriage and saying unpleasant things. Although I don't care about those rumors. But as an individual, who would be willing to let his mother go through this? Having said that, the Empress and Princess Huijuan both felt a little moved when they thought about their own troubles. But the Emperor cursed in his heart, okay, you. It seems that I was right, he has become cunning and rogue now. You brat, if you act with me, if you don't take care of you, I'm afraid you'll get into big trouble for me. Ordinary talkative women, there is nothing I can do about them. But today, Chi Yu. He pointed angrily, in front of so many people, his language was filthy and his attitude was frivolous, shouldn't he be beaten? Chi Ho's face was calm, but he was a little confused in his heart. Just now he asked Chi Yu the reason, and Chi Yu was also confused and said he didn't know. Did he say something? Chi Yu felt greatly wronged, Your Majesty, I never said those words. Duan Muai was slandering me. You and I have never met each other, and I have no grudges, so I am using my mother's reputation to slander you, Duan Muai replied coldly. Qinjiao. MRS-10 couldn't help but sneer. Duan Mu immediately turned to look at her, is she Kio's wife? What are you laughing at? The fierce light in his eyes appeared again. Chi Ho secretly thought that it was not good. 10. He hurriedly smoothed things over for his old wife, her own grandson, I know it myself. I simply don't believe that Chi Yu would say such a thing. You are the one who is laughing, and you can't find an excuse to find someone else easy to believe. When MRS-10 heard what the Marquis said, she felt alarmed. He immediately followed up with an explanation, Your Majesty, Chi Yu experienced the hardships of the wind and sand in the northwest, went to the battlefield, and guarded the border for the emperor. To say that he drank and ate meat, and probably acted recklessly after drinking. But judging from the length of a person, how is this possible? It's ridiculous that General Duan Mu is talking. Your Majesty, I have a witness. Duan Mu interrupted her and said calmly. Because of this nonsense. The emperor felt a little annoyed. Duan Mu asked him, so he nodded. Gold. Changling. You two come in, Duan Mu ordered loudly. When the emperor heard this, his head was a bit big. Gold. Why did he get involved again? As a result, 3 people came in. The last one is Jin Zi's grandfather, Duke Xingguo. Duke Xingguo felt miserable. He didn't know how his grandson got involved in this matter. Qi Zhen was not easy to mess with, and so was Duan Mu. But what can he do? Wipe your ass. The emperor took a look and said yes. I am angry and want to be quiet. The queen quit, thinking, you should ask quickly, why haven't you figured it out yet? After taking a few glances to see that the emperor still didn't say anything, the queen became anxious and said, Your Majesty, let them say it. Say it. Duke Xingguo said first, Jinzi, in front of Long Live Lord, you must tell the truth. Don't add any added fuel, let alone make up nonsense. Changling is also here, and soon he will say that you are making it up, and my grandfather will personally enforce the family law. Originally, Jin Zi had already made up a lot of words, but thinking about the effect of saying it, he was so excited that he couldn't bear it. But when I heard my grandfather's words, I suddenly felt a lot weaker. The fun is over, but he still refused to let the man named Changling say first, Your Majesty, Grandpa, your 2 elders know gold best, and they have always told the truth. Today's matter. Although I really wanted to, I didn't dare to make it up. Anyway, the king of hell didn't let him do anything. Let's talk about this matter. Qi Yu is also unlucky. Originally, Jin Zi didn't want to mention the topic of the princess. He was not stupid. This matter was too much to put into words. It would be serious to offend the king of hell. And Duan Mu will definitely not bring up his mother's affairs as a topic. He found out that Qi Yu was arrogant and had some younger brothers as bosses, so he wanted to use his glorious deeds to stimulate him. Find the gap. But I didn't expect that this was said in a hurry. Especially Jin Zi's expression when he imitates Qi Yu's words, it has nothing to do with me is actually very lifelike, and also adds the wretchedness of Jin Zi himself. The queen, the princess, and Duan Mu all had cold faces. Even the emperor felt that Qi Yu was a little frivolous. This, most people can't stand it, let alone that bastard. Jin Zi still had more to say and wanted to say something, but was interrupted by his grandfather beside him. Changling, tell me, is there anything exaggerated about him? Changling is also a member of an aristocratic family and is known for his honesty, so he was also present. Nodding, Your Majesty, this is generally what happened. Qi Ho had nothing to say. Seeing what Mr. Tan wanted to say with a malicious look on his face, he secretly complained that it was wrong, so he rushed to say, Your Majesty, if gold is like this, Qi Yu's beating will not be unjust. Mrs. Tan had a look of disbelief. Ho! Behind her, Mrs. Lu, who understood today's situation better than she did, said to Mrs. Tan, Mom, don't worry, she whispered again, let father handle it. It's just that the same language, different tone and expression, but the meaning is different when spoken. Originally, they were just talking about Duan Mu's return, but someone rushed to say this. But someone with a serious intention instigated it. When you hear gold, what? Do you mean I instigated it? He wanted to jump, but his grandfather stopped him and said in a low voice, I didn't mention you by name, what did you pick up? It's not you who got beaten anyway, so be honest. Ginger is still spicy. The emperor also knew the general idea, so he came to wipe the mud. It's all free. Duan Mu, you have always been daring. What day is it today? Even if you have a stupid brain, you should know not to act haphazardly. I think you have no scruples. His eyes also became stern. Duan Mu knelt down and said, the emperor taught you to accept the punishment for your ministers. Apologize to Qi Ho and Qi Yu first. Yes, I obey the order. He was also unambiguous, Qi Ho, Qi Yu. I can't help myself today. I shouldn't have done anything. As the saying goes, no fighting, no acquaintance. It is still common for soldiers to compete, so don't mind it. If we have a chance in the future, let's go together. He thought for a while, eat meat and drink wine. The queen wanted to laugh, but felt it was boring, so she didn't start a fight. The emperor remained silent. Duanmu added, "Your Majesty, how about you ask me to give you some more money to treat Chiyu's injuries?" The emperor said, "No need. You have misbehaved and deserve to be punished. Someone, drag me out with 20 military sticks." Duanmu responded with a smile, "It's weird to think that I won't be beaten by the emperor for a long time. No need to delay, I can leave on my own." "Your Majesty, the beating is over, I still have something to report to you." Roll.